Dirk Nowitzki is one of the best examples of why people love sports. Yes, we like the competitive aspect and actual game being played, but the storylines, a player's story, rising, falling, rising again, is what makes people cling onto a player. Dirk Nowitzki is my personal favorite player of all time. His loyalty, resilience, competitive spirit are all things that resonated with me, and I feel resonates with a lot of people, with loyalty being his biggest attribute. We saw Dirk rise when he was younger, even when there was a lot of doubt of a skinny tall dude coming in from Europe into the league. We saw the fall when he lost to the Heat in the finals in 2006. There was a lot of questions during that time if you can win with Dirk, and there was a lot of questions being thrown around if he is soft. And then we saw a massive rise going through a resilient Blazers team, a rising OKC Thunder team, a championship hardened Lakers team, and a juggernaut Heat team. Overcoming all of that to win his first championship for himself and for the city, getting his get back against that Miami Heat team. There's so many times he could have said, hey, I won out, it's just not working, and I want to team up with another star, but the man stuck it out with the cards he was dealt, improved his game as he got older, stayed loyal, and won it his way. That's why we see so many times when people talk about the hardest championships in the NBA, that Dallas Mavericks team is on everyone's top list. And I think a lot of people, when they look at Dirk, they admire the hell out of that resiliency and rank his championship wins as one of the most inspired and hardest championship wins of the modern era. But how did Dirk do that? How did a guy who wasn't uber athletic and was heavily reliant on his jump shot able to have a historic Hall of Fame NBA career and become one of the NBA's best scorers? Dirk's game really took off in the 2000-2001 season. His footwork in the post was still raw, but his jump shot was undeniable. A 7-footer with a high release point was tough for players to heavily contest him. A younger Dirk was also much more quicker off the burst, and that popped when he attacked closeouts. Defenses had to respect his jump shot so much, so when they closed out on him, it opened up driving opportunities for Dirk to take advantage of. He could also handle the ball a bit and was fluid in his movements. His handle was a bit more looser when he was younger, but he was good at turning corners and getting in the lane. And he would get off some dunks during this time, a whole bunch of dunks that he got off during this time than he did when he was older. There's times when you could just run screens for Dirk and he would just immediately pop into that jump shot. And just imagine how annoying it was for opposing power forwards having to fight through screens, something that usually guards would have to do, and catch up to Dirk as he just curls off of it. And if they didn't recover, he was getting a quick jumper off, or he was spotting a teammate that was coming off that screen. His mid-range shot was extremely efficient. From the 2005-2006 NBA season up all until the 2017-2018 season, Dirk has shot 45% or better in the mid-range, which is absolutely absurd efficiency. For 13 seasons, Dirk was killing everyone from the mid-range. This was his main area of attack, and he destroyed defenses with that mid-range jumper. The most threes he attempted a game was around 5 through his career, and he was a very good shooter from deep, benefiting from pick and pops, spot up threes, and trailing threes. And even though for today's standards he was low volume from there, in his younger years that was a huge problem for defenses, as the threat of Dirk's shot opened up more of the floor. And as he got a bit more seasoned from 2005 and on, his three-point shot attempts started to decline, and his post play started to get better and become a much more focus in his game, as there would be more punch action implementing the offense for him. His face-up game was deadly to where they could post him up on one side and isolate him. Dirk would fall into pump fake, drive, and pull-ups, or get a layup or jab, react to the space, and rise up for a shot. and teams would be so scared of that jumper that he would just get defenders to bite on his fakes and draw fouls. The only other player where I say his jump shot is the most scariest thing when they step on the court has to be Steph Curry. But Dirk was also a guy where he stepped on the court and his jump shot was completely scary. Defenders would have to play him physical, uptight and close, and defenders would get handsy with Dirk, and Dirk would play so much mind games. His game was so cerebral with that jump shot as he would stay patient on ISOs, and Dirk wasn't much of a rim pressure, rim scorer type of guy, but the threat of that jump shot opened up a ton of driving opportunities, which when he drove, he was able to stay stable and balanced and finish through traffic. Dirk operated at a less than 20% frequency at the rim through his entire career, but what offset the need for rim pressure was his ability to get to the free throw line at a high level. Free throws are one of the easiest shots in basketball, just like layups and dunks, and since Dirk didn't have uber athleticism to get to the rim consistently, his ability to draw fouls generated himself easier shots, and he shot 85% or more from the free throw line his entire career, basically being automatic from the charity stripe. Dirk's foul drawing remains to be his most underrated skill, and it was all centered around his jump shot. In 2005, he attempted 9.1 free throws a game. Defenders just bite on his pump fakes or up and unders, and it generated a ton of fouls drawn, and again, it was all just playing with the threat of that jumper. Defenses would just close out hard to him, which would also generate fouls. A guy who shot 45% or more from the mid-range is damn near automatic from there, so that's why defenders want to shut that down so bad and operated urgently when Dirk got the ball. Before he got that patented one-legged fadeaway, he also was able to get into some hook shots and spins in the lane. Dirk wasn't a powerhouse post player at all, but a cerebral post player. And that is something we just don't see much of anymore. And it was kind of disrespectful in a way he operated. He knew defenses were anticipating that jumper, and he centered his footwork and movements based off that threat of that shot. And it wasn't just open shots. Dirk made shots against great defense that were just like, damn, man, the only thing I could do is just pray and hope to God that he misses. And as Dirk got older, his game started to slow down, and it aged like fine wine. He can turn over either shoulder to score on a fadeaway. That Dirk leg was developed to create added space against defenders. It was natural in his movements, and it was tough to navigate that one leg sticking out, and there wouldn't be much solid contest on his shot. This move would become his signature move that became vital in Dirk winning in 2011. One of his glaring weaknesses was not being able to attack mismatches or smaller players consistently in his early days, so he developed more of his body and moves to constantly punish those mismatches. Attacking mismatches is one of the biggest things guys his size and frame struggles with. I think we see that a lot in players nowadays. The bigger guys don't really operate like bigger guys that when you put them on a mismatch, they are just powering you down and taking you to the rim. Smaller players who are physical are tough to score on, and it's not just pure power that wins you post play. Lower body stability and ball control does. It allows you to stay strong and firm when he has a smaller guy pressed to you, and your ball control helps from not getting the ball poked as smaller players are pressing you for that steal. Dirk in his Rick Carlisle years spammed getting mismatches on smaller players, and it was basically game over. He wasn't getting contested, and he wasn't getting moved off his spot. The jump shot offset a lot of things that were typically needed for a big man. As mentioned before, the free throws offset the need for constant rim pressure. Dirk wasn't much of a big-time roller to the rim, but was a lethal pick and popper. And if defenses switched or was heavily pressing the ball handler, Dirk would always be available in space or against a mismatch to attack and get immediately into that jump shot. His screening allowed for open attacks for his teammates as defenders would just defend him tightly. With his game from 2011 until his retirement, defenses still had to press him, and if they didn't and conceded to switch on him with a guard, you might as well just chalk up 2 points on the board. And if you double him off that switch, he would make the quick read and get the defense in rotation. He was a consistent source of offense up until the age of 37. And I know some people will ask, well, why didn't teams just double team him more? In a lot of face-up situations, it was easier to spot where the double would come from, and Dirk was fairly quick and decisive on his attacks. If he spotted the double team coming, he would dribble away and get into a shot and or pass out. He wasn't an elite passer, but he was safe in his passes, spotting the open man when needed. He wasn't much of a manipulator or high-level passer, but he reacted well to what the defense was doing, and there was a lot of stock on how well he distributed the ball off of a live dribble, taking 1 or 2 dribbles and immediately beaming a pass to the open man. As a playmaker, Dirk was all around solid, fairly average, read the floor average, accuracy on his passes were average, but he was more than willing to pass and didn't resort to becoming a black hole on offense. So when you factor in that he was an efficient three-point shooter who can play off ball, a deadly mid-range shooter that has a high arc, high release to where you really can't contest it, who uses the threat of his shot to get to the rim with an elite level post footwork and craft and solid passing, you get one of the best scorers to ever play the game of basketball. Now I'll wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like for more NBA breakdowns like these. With all that being said, I'll see you all in the next video.